I know, right?
All right. How's everybody doing today? Good? All right, all right, all right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, we got a little mic. So,
We got any Seattle love or no?
okay, okay. Any A16Z love? All right, all right. Not the same. Oh, man. So, yeah, well, you know, appreciate you flying out today. Definitely we got a lot to talk about, so let's just hop right into it. So, like, you've been to Super Bowls, Pro Bowls, everything, but now you're here today, and we're talking about startups, we're talking about investing, we're talking about business. Why is this something that is of interest to you, and how did you even get into this space, just to start off with?
Um, I think it started in college. I graduated with a business degree, and from the moment I got into the league, I felt like everybody was telling me that NFL stands for not for long, and so I was just trying to figure out, like, what my passion was, what something that I wanted to do, wanted to get into, and then I read a stat, and it said about 80% of NFL players go broke,
Yeah.
divorced, and all this other stuff after 2 years after playing in the league, and I'm like, man, that's a crazy stat. Like,
It's really like ballers on TV, right?
ball is a little bit extreme though. They gassed it up a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
but when I read that, I was like, I started paying attention to the room, and I would kind of see different teams, different organizations, and I started to figure out who were the 20%
yeah. Yep,
people. Like, what were they doing?
yep.
And so I tried to start doing that. A lot of those guys were just, using their time wisely, and so that's kind of what I did. I started to look into investments, look into different things that I can get involved in, and just trying to find a way to be different.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of how I stumbled into this.
Exactly. So, like, really thinking about rather than you spending your money, how can you start to make your money work for you?
Yeah, because I think, like, from a player standpoint, I feel like a lot of the players come from nothing, and so they get this money. They think they have to spend it right away or do something with it right away, instead of taking the time to learn. Because we have like this little thing, you sign an agent, you
Yep.
sign a wealth manager or whatever,
Yep.
and you go from not making money to making money, and then you just give it to someone else to figure out versus figuring out yourself.
Yeah.
Because that was a really tough day to go from no taxes to the highest tax bracket. That was not fun. The first time I saw them take the tax out of my bill, I thought somebody stole from me. So,
Like, we're like,
um,
that's what my grandma calls champagne problems, by the way. So.
yeah, it was crazy. 'Cause I went right up to Seahawks and like, yo,
Yeah,
y'all
well,
missing a lot of
exactly.
money
Need
from my
another
check.
zero right there. So.
And so, a lot. Trust me, y'all don't want to go through that.
Uncle Sam. Hey.
But no, man, I really just wanted to learn and put myself in a different environment. We play in a sport where, you play from August to February if you're lucky, and
Yep.
that rest of that time you have to learn and figure stuff out. And so it's just about using your time wisely and figuring out what you want to do with your life before you out of the league.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but you took that to the extreme. Not only were you interested in understanding the game, but you also took that into understanding how you could negotiate your own contracts as well. And so, like, you're the highest paid linebacker in the NFL, and
Appreciate
you and and he negotiated his own deal as well. So, I mean, that's so how did you get like how did you even decide, like, I can do this better myself, and then, like, what was some of the process around that?
that. Well, I had a lot of agents, let's say that I fired a couple, and through that process, I kind of just wanted to do something different, and I wanted to take control of my life and take control of my finances, and business was something that I wanted to get into
Yep.
post career, and I said if I wasn't willing to take a chance on my contract or a chance with myself, then I would never be able to take a chance after football. So I took a chance,
Yep.
and I did a lot of studying. It wasn't like something I just woke up one day and wanted to do. Like it was years in the making, and years of studying, and really just reaching out to the connections that I made over that time, and tried to figure out, what did I need to do to be prepared for this moment, and then wanted to be in a situation where when I walked into that negotiation room, I was being, they took me serious. It wasn't
Exactly.
just like a player just coming in here trying to get a lot of money. I wanted to know that, like,
You
this is
knew
somebody
you
that
knew the
y'all.
whole, like not just the deal, but the dynamics, the terms, all the logistics.
Yeah, I knew everything, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I walked into the room and they were kind of like going over, kind of what the steps were, and they were
Yeah.
kind of defining things, and I kind of let them, kind of finish,
Mhm.
and then they were probably like maybe they had like 6 more things left, and I started defining the last 6,
Yep.
and you could just tell like I caught him off guard, like dang, like we actually got to be ready for him because he know what he's doing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
from that point forward, man, I just it was very tough. It was a difficult process, but
You-
like I said, it worked out well. So
It worked out well.
I do it again.
You got. Do you have other players now asking, "Yo, can you represent me now?"
Yeah, but I don't want to be an agent. I'm good. That's a lot of emotions and personalities I ain't trying to deal with. So
Absolutely. That's a
I'm
lot.
good. I'll handle my own personality.
That just
Good.
one for one. So, but yeah. So I guess now it's like you know how to negotiate your own contracts, but now like you're starting to also get into investing into the private side too. So how do you negotiate when you're working with startups, when you're working with founders? Like what is some of the things that you look for when you're trying to make an investment? It's a very similar process.
It's a real similar process, honestly, man. It's kind of the same with trying to figure out a good team, or is your team a good team? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because you look and you see what's the culture, and what's the energy, what's the vibe, and who is like, do you believe in the person that is controlling the product? Because there's a lot of good products out there,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it's not good leaders, and
Yep.
they can lead them into the ground. But it's not so great products that a good leader can turn to amazing things. And so, that's kind of what I look for is, do I believe in the culture? Do I believe in the person that's building the product? And is it somebody I want to take a chance on?
Got it. Got it. Well, what are some of the, if you have maybe one or two examples of a company that really struck you as that, hey, this might be the next billion-dollar business, or this is a founder that I believe is going to be able to go through the struggle and make it all the way through?
Before I say the good one last, I'll say the bad one first.
Okay.
I had invested in the company. I won't say the name, but I invested in the company, and they were doing really well. They were backed by a lot of amazing people.
Yep.
And something happened where it basically, challenged the company and the leader. And in that moment, I kind of felt like he folded. You know what I mean? And
Pressure.
pressure.
Yeah.
They fold. But at the end of the day, I feel like when it comes to like investing and things of that nature, you're gonna have challenges.
Exactly.
And it's the people that can withstand those challenges are the people that come up top. And
Exactly.
so that's the type of people that you look for, someone that is level-headed when things are bad and good. And so, another fund that I'm excited to be a part of is your fund.
Hey.
Coach Leadership Fund. I met Chris probably 2013,
Yeah.
14, and when I heard about the space that he was in, it immediately intrigued me because I didn't really see too many people like him that was in that space. So I was immediately just, drawn to him and wanted to see like how he got into that space and how he was able to, transcend into the position he is now. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit. Talk about the fun and talk about, how'd you get your start? What was your
Yeah,
process? Because
absolutely.
everybody believes that
You
it's
just wake
one
up.
road. It's so many different roads. So if you could tell me a little
Exactly.
about your road.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that at our firm we really believe in is just you have to have an earned secret, right? In order, whether that's you starting a business or whether that's you creating a product or, for me, it was like I did not originally come from the technology industry. I was a music producer and engineer. And so that was the culture that was embedded into my spirit, but then had an idea for a startup and, taught myself how to code, ended up moving out here. Actually attended Startup Grind a number of times, so it's like kind of fun just to kind of be on the other side. It's cool to see, But the big thing was that I saw this transcendence of it really was like when Twitter and Instagram really started to come out, and you saw that it was cultural influencers that were really starting to help drive these businesses. And like when Puff did the first to 1 million followers with Ashton Kutcher, and then you saw like what DJ Khaled, and how he took Snap and basically helped transcend the whole business. And I was like, well, who's managing these networks out here in Silicon Valley, and who's the person that's going to help represent whether it's talent or whether it's strategic investors, because these rounds are always the second they open, they're right there and closed. And so by being inside the room gave me that ability to say, all right, like, let's leverage and work with a different type of investor, but what we kind of consider a cultural leader. And by a cultural leader, it really means that you have a special genius and you know something about moving culture. Like, if you think about and specifically, like, because Cultural Leadership Fund, 100% of our fund is made and consisted of African American LPs. So that's the first time in the history of Silicon Valley that's ever happened before. So, thank you. Thank you. And then on top of that, 100% of the proceeds that we make from our fund goes to a select number of nonprofits to help advance more African Americans into technology. So that way, we're helping put more diverse backgrounds onto the cap tables, helping partner with our portfolio companies for what we call shared genius. So you're a genius in your aspect, and you know something about a very unique set of cultures. Like, same thing with like someone like a Quincy Jones, where they might look at him and say, hey, we want you to tweet our next product, but they don't understand that Quincy Jones also knows 22 languages, right? And so when you think about having culture and communication for a consumer-facing company, not just having him tweet, but sitting and listening to him and allowing him to understand ways to kind of connect the dots and share some of his shared genius with the shared genius of the portfolio of the founder, really create something special, and what we believe can really help accelerate companies across all different levels. And so, that was an idea that came from just who I was, and also trying to say, how can I bring the world of Silicon Valley, bring more diverse backgrounds into technology, and at the same time, like, have a good time doing it.
Yeah. Why is that important? Why is that important, bringing diverse into Silicon Valley?
I mean, I think there's the most important reason is that, like, I came from right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I thought that, like, the people I looked up to were, T.I. and Jeezy, and and I was like, yo, they're making money. Like, I need to be in that industry. Jermaine Dupri, like, that's who I used to intern for. But then I came out here and I saw, everybody walking around with bees on their chest, like with the billions. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. This is a whole nother game real quick. So, so, and then, like, you realize that the next generation of wealth is happening within Silicon Valley. And if African Americans do not have a seat at that table, then, like, we need to fix that as soon as possible. And so, not just from, on the investment side, but also, like, how do we help get more African American and diverse? And when I mean African American, I mean African Americans, I mean diverse talent, I mean women, I mean Latino, everybody who feels like they're in an uphill battle, like, we're all in that same thing together. And so if we can open up the doors and build relationships with our portfolio companies or, strategics within the Silicon Valley ecosystem, and vouch for the people that look like us, because that's the biggest thing and the biggest challenge that we're facing within Silicon Valley, is that people just can't see the talent. Like, I looked at you, and I don't look at you as an athlete, I look at you as an entrepreneur. I know who you are as a person. I know who you are as a genius, and your ability to want to expand outside and not just put you in a box and say you're an athlete. And so that's the same thing when you're thinking about talent and people trying to get into these industries. And so if we can kind of connect the dots between the two, ultimately we can make the world a better place. We can help increase the overall level of inclusion within Silicon Valley, and, inspire people who, like myself, never thought that being in, technology or venture capital was even a pathway.
Right. How do you go about finding that talent?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a team of great people within the Cultural Leadership Fund. We have to really be intentional about this. We have to, all within Silicon Valley. Like, I got a ton of friends in here today. Like, I see black people every day. I talk to black people every day. Like, that's not the same for everybody, right? So you have to be out and reach the network, right? And then you have to figure out what they're doing, figure out what people's interests are, and be very proactive about that, and, like, saying, okay, like, you're interested in design, you're interested in business development, you think that like just because you were working at Salesforce, like that's the only option for you. But like you can take that exact same skill, go work at a private company, be 3 or 4 stage earlier, and now develop equity, and then hopefully we align you with a great company that can eventually change your family's life, and then now you're giving a different level of understanding, building a whole new network. And it's not like we need to be intentional about just trying to make this ecosystem a better place together.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean that's like for you, like as you think about the evolution of your career and like how are you evolving? You have startups, you have your personal businesses, you got your family. Like what's the Bobby Wagner enterprise of the future really look like?
Look like
Yeah.
hopefully it looked like Magic Johnson. Hopefully.
Right. Well, there's a
that'd be
Starbucks
great.
right next door. We can go start by
That's
take
what
that one.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Honestly, that's what like Magic was somebody who inspired me because
Yeah.
you watch a bunch of athletes and they did amazing things on the field, and after they did amazing things on the field, they kind of went away and had a hard time kind of transitioning into another life. And I was watching. It was funny. I was watching Marshawn talk.
Yeah,
on
he's
a
another
panel.
LP of ours too.
That's what I'm saying.
He's the man. So.
He is.
Yeah. Gotta
He's
count your
somewhere over
chickens.
here, so count your chickens. Take care of your mentals. Nah, but he was a person that I heard him say this probably a couple months ago. But he was talking about how in our profession, we spend so much time focusing on our career that we don't really take the time to master something else. So by the time we get done with our career, we're already behind.
Yep.
Because all we've been from the moment we touch the football, basketball, baseball, whatever, all we've been doing is focusing on that sport and being good at that sport.
Yep.
And so we have to find a way to not only master what we're in currently, but think ahead and think of other things that you can master while you're mastering something else. Because I do believe that you can multitask. I do believe that you could do other things than just what people say that you're good at in the moment.
Exactly.
And so that was one of the things that inspired me to do contracts, because I knew I had enough time to study. I knew I had enough time to get the hold of it and understand what it was that I needed to do to be successful. And so I'm just trying to build on that.
Exactly.
See how far I can take it, see how far I can go with being in business, and hopefully, I'm up here, talking to you guys again about a business that I started that's down the street or something. So
exactly.
I appreciate that.
Right.
I mean, honestly, that's how
it feels like just the evolution of influencers or athletes or anyone. It's not just the Gatorade, pay me $200,000 and say this tastes good. Like now, equity is starting to become and having that conversation within the locker room.
Yeah, I think we passed that. 'Cause I think at the end of the day, like when we first got into the league, that's all you saw. You saw guys with the Nike deals and the Gatorade commercials and Body Armor commercials and all these different things, and you wanted to do that, and you got that money, but that money was temporary. It wasn't something that you can last. And I don't think we understood our worth. I understand, like, Michael Jordan really pushed Nike, turning it into a whole different thing. And so imagine if they just cut him a check versus him having equity, because him as a brand, him as a person helped move the needle. And so I feel like seeing that and understanding that players start to get smarter and understand that, we have a big advantage and we help companies move the needle just as much as the people within the businesses sometimes. And so it's just knowing your worth and understanding that, you got to take the time and do the work. And just like on the field, if you do the work, good things
Everything will come back. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I guess, the last thing I would, for the audience is like for people who want to work with you and are looking, whether they're raising their next rounds and want to be able to include, someone like yourself in a deal, or if they're thinking about doing partnerships with talent, like how should they negotiate or, just really think about bringing you or, having that you be as a part of their business, not just from a post standpoint, but like really integrating so that together everybody can win?
I think you just have to look at who the talent is or who the person is, and look at your company and your brand and see if it matches.
Exactly.
If it matches and it makes sense, then try to find a deal that can make everybody win. And a lot of times you give equity, it gives the person that gets the equity
Yep.
more, want to see the business grow. And at the end of the day, it helps everybody. It helps the company, it helps the influencer, the talent.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if everybody wins, everybody's happy. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So I think that's kind of how you look at it. Is that person a fit for this brand?
Yep.
Do they fit the culture? Can they make the culture better? Can they really push us to the next step? And if
Yep.
they believe that,
Yep.
and they believe in the person, take a chance on the person just like you want the people and the consumers to take a chance on the brand.
Look at that. That's
You know what I
right,
mean?
though. That's right. Now, look,
Nah, I'm
he's
just,
taking notes, man.
I was reading before I came up here.
No, I mean that's yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, like I remember when we were doing the Lime deal, and they were interested in going to Seattle to open up their space, and they had no connection. It was like, we should introduce them to you. And it's not like you're going to be the face of Lime riding on the scooter, but like you can help get them into the business, right? And
Yeah.
then you can actually help move, open up the doors and kind of help facilitate that relationship. And then you're a trusted resource, and like that adds way more value than you doing a 30-second commercial, like riding on the scooters.
Yeah, that only goes so far, man. Shaquille does a really good job. So I'm not 7 foot tall, so I gotta figure out different ways to help and something that's gonna be for the longevity of my life and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, within the cultural leadership, I think that's really the thing that we really care most about are those shared values. Like, you have to deeply understand like what it is that your company stands for, and then figure out like who also is moving in that same direction. And so,
Exactly.
like, so that company can help your business. Like, for example, we did this deal called Hip Camp, right? We led their Series B, and one of the questions I asked the founders, I was like, and this was a very genuine question. I was like, hey, do you have a lot of black people like using your service, right? Because Hip Camp, if you guys don't know, it's like Airbnb for camping. And if you also don't know, there's not a lot of black people apparently that do camping. So, but exactly. So I started going into the stats and doing some research and realizing that like actually African American and diverse backgrounds were on trend to be the number one people who are looking to go outdoors, right? And so we were like, all right, well who is it that we can work with that can actually add not just a cultural relevance, but really help let our community know that, hey, like this is actually a cool thing, and this is a company that you can actually work with. And so that's when we brought on Jay-Z and Will Smith as strategic investors. And once we made that announcement, like you had Complex Magazine talking about going camping. You had Double XL talking about camping. Like I don't even think camping was even in their in the section, And now which ultimately helps push the culture forward, which is with what we're doing within technology. And if you believe that technology is going to be at the center of every business, then it gives us that opportunity to bring other people involved, allow them to have a little bit of equity in the game, and then also have their creative influence as they're helping build the company forward.
Nice. Have you ever had it go south? Have you ever had like you thought somebody was going to be good with the brand and you partnered with them and then they didn't necessarily do good? They did the brand not justice?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good at it, I'll tell you. Like, because the thing is that these deals, they take so long and they're so hard to do. And like, at the end of the day, this is why I think that you have to understand the talent, is because a great investor, regardless if you're in a venture fund or you're a strategic investor, they understand that there has to be a commonality and there has to be those shared values. And so there's been times when we've tried to put things together, and then as we're like in the middle of the negotiation, realizing that like it didn't make sense.
Right.
And then everybody's okay with not doing that deal because you don't want to force. You don't want to put someone who's vegan to do, a chicken company, or be on the face of Popeyes, right? Like you got to have the commonality between the two. And so I think, and also when you're dealing with, investments, advisory shares, partnerships, like what does it look like from a marketing standpoint? You have to really find those connections. And so, the ones that don't work you never see, but when they do come together, it really becomes something special. And it adds value to the portfolio companies, and ultimately allows the talent to get a glimpse into the world of venture capital, into the world of startup investing, understanding how companies are running and building their businesses, and that to me, that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question to you is, what is the best advice you've gotten in this journey up to date?
Oh man. There's so many. I think the biggest one is that there's always a move.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one that really sticks to me. Like, we were talking in the back, like this has been a journey for all of us, right? And like with a journey, you always are hitting obstacles. You're always like coming across adversity. You're always coming into situations where you think that it's done and you hit the road. Like, when I raised this fund, like it was 100% individuals, right? So no family offices, no fund of funds, nothing. And so for me, it was extremely challenging. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, but then I always remembered that there's always a move.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a step, and you have to take that time, whether you meditate, whether you go on a run, whether you work out, whether you hang out with, like, get yourself that clarity and that mental space so that you can see the bigger picture and then figure out one way in order to make it happen. Because quitting, if you quit, nobody would ever know you quit, because they'll never see you.
Right.
And so you gotta figure out a way in order to make it happen.
Yeah, quitting is an option for sure.
Absolutely. So, and I know you know all about that. So, especially from Super Bowls, Pro Bowls. So, and just now that we're here today. So.
Yeah, had some good times, some bad times.
Exactly. So.
You guys, San Francisco, unfortunately had some bad times, but hey, well, if I'm from Seattle, like, not from Seattle, but I play for Seattle. If I was in San Francisco and didn't take one shot at you guys, it wouldn't be fair. So
absolutely. Well,
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a shout out before I come out here.
Exactly. So. Well, you can come take a shout out at us if we'll be around for a minute. So, but we appreciate everybody's time today. Yo, Bobby, appreciate you rolling out. Absolutely, the marathon continues. So let's keep it going.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. All right. Good. You guys do it.